You and me better both know that that is not my baby, he said. He didn't want to hear anything else about it. Then he said, now tell me you love me. Hello, you guys, and welcome to the channel. If you're new, don't be.
I'm Whitney. Keep it cute, but get the boot.
Your girl, as whack as she is in all her glory, was in the New York Times. In November 2000, Chicago journalist and music critic Jim received an anonymous fax that alleged R.Kelly had a problem with young girls. Weeks later, Jim broke the shocking story, publishing allegations that the R&B superstar and local hero had groomed girls, sexually abused them, and paid them off. Jim thought his work would have an impact. Instead, Kelly's career flourished. No one seemed to care. Not the music industry, not the culture at large, not the parents of numerous other young girls. But for more than 18 years, Jim stayed on the story. He was the one who was given the disturbing videotape that led to Kelly's 2008 child pornography trial, the one whose window was shot out, and the one whom women trusted to tell their stories. Of a meeting with the superstar at a classroom, a mall, a concert, or a McDonald's that forever warped the course of their lives. SOULLESS, the Case Against R.Kelly, is Jim's masterpiece, a work of tenacious journalism and powerful cultural criticism. It tells the story of Kelly's career, Jim's investigations, and the world in which the two cross paths, and brings the story up to the moment when things finally seem to have changed. Decades in the making, this is an outrageous, darkly riveting account of the life and actions of R. Kelly and their horrible impact on dozens of girls by the only person to tell it. Okay. All right, you guys. Now I'm going to read the afterword. Okay. Y'all been asking about the afterword. I'm going to read it, but I might break it down to where it's in its own video.
Butterfly in the sky, I can go twice as high.
Nope, this ain't it. You are tuned into a realistic, unprofessional perspective reading of this book. So that means stumbles, fumbles, and sometimes an occasional mispronunciation of words. So if you are looking for the audible of this book, go buy it yourself, or feel free to mute me and read on your own. Otherwise, sit back and be grateful. You are tuned into a live reading with Whitney D. Afterward. When Tiffany Hawkins asked her lawyer, Ian Alexander, to contact the Illinois state attorneys on her behalf, the office chose not to pursue charges against a Chicago superstar based on the word of a girl who met him in her high school choir class. Alexander then filed a civil claim for Tiffany, the first to accuse the superstar of underage sex. Tiffany was the first girl to try to stop him on Christmas Eve of 1996. If her name hadn't been in a single anonymous fax that arrived after I wrote a record review, I'm not sure Abdon Palash and I would have ever have started our investigative reporting, or that I have been motivated to continue what became a very long journey. Adopting the language of another literary journalism hero, Randy Slitch, I always considered Tiffany patient zero. In this story, Abdon had copied 3 pages from the Kenwood Academy yearbooks during Tiffany's time there, and for almost 2 decades, I kept her photos in a folder on my desk to remind me what this story was really about. In mid-January 2019, Alexander still felt ethically bound by attorney-client confidentiality, but he didn't object when the client he represented 23 years earlier asked him to set up a meeting with a reporter. 2 inches of snow had fallen the night before, but it was already melting as the thermometer climbed toward the mid-30s under a bright, warm winter sun. The three of us met in a coffee shop on the northwest side on a Sunday afternoon. I arrived early because I always do. It's a journalist thing. Plus, I like to put the punk in punctual. Alexander showed up next, then his client. Tiffany Hawkins gave her attorney a big warm hug, and their mutual affection was obvious. They've kept in touch over all these years, sporadically trading greeting cards, emails, and phone calls, pictures of the kids, that sort of thing. They'd become part of each other's lives. She's different than a lot of my clients, Alexander said. I don't feel like this. I don't feel this way about all of them. After Tiffany hugged her lawyer, she smiled and hugged me. I didn't know how to react. On December 21st, 2000, Abdom and I put her name in a daily newspaper, reporting what a man 10 years her senior had done to her when she was 15. Nothing that she'd taken his money and signed a non-disclosure agreement. That had to be an incredibly difficult day for her. She had never talked about any of it, not when we called or rang her doorbell, and not when television producers working with Bunham Murray and Lifetime dug it all up after offered her $10,000. They told her they couldn't ethically pay people to appear in their docu-series, but they would pay for her photographs. She declined the offer. They used her photo anyway. Tiffany was not eager to revisit that part of her life. She'd lost a lot, and she'd done things she was ashamed of. She regretted all of it, but she decided it was finally time to talk. Alexander informed her that as her attorney, he had to advise her that telling me what happened to her from 1991 to 1993, or talking about the lawsuit she filed in 1996 and settled in 1998, would break her NDA, placing her in legal jeopardy. Tiffany laughed, a quite nervous laugh, then smiled. Why? A gorgeous smile, a flashing bright white teeth. Then we talked for the first time for 2.5 hours for the new digital recorder that replaced my old Sony Pressman. I had some assumptions for almost 2 decades that turned out to be wrong. Tiffany had been a volleyball player. I'd assumed basketball because that was his thing. She'd been a straight A student who got into Kenwood Academy through its magnet program. I thought she struggled since she eventually dropped out of high school. She'd been credited a age ain't nothing but a number as a rapper, but singer had always been her passion. And her strongest talent, as I went back to talk to some of her classmates again for this book, they said she had a voice like Whitney Houston's, powerful, beautiful. I never know Tiffany toured as one of Aaliyah's backing vocalists, performing across the United States as well as in London, Paris, and Amsterdam. A long way from south side of Chicago, she had never been jealous of Aaliyah. They'd become best friends, two teenage girls seeing the world for the first time, part of a great adventure. A new chapter in their lives, the second chapter, as they called their posse. And when she left home for them to get married, she ran away. Tiffany said her parents were on the phone with me, back and forth, and they're like, Aaliyah ran away, and the only place she would go would be to your house. Tiffany split with him when she got pregnant at age 18. I will not use his name again because she didn't not very much and not very much, and because it doesn't need to be in this book one more time. She asked him to take a paternity test because she wasn't 100% sure who'd fathered the child she was carrying. He refused. He turned out to be another boyfriend, not him, but the fact that he wouldn't take the test infuriated her. Every girl I interviewed had a different trigger that prompted her to leave. And like every girl I interviewed, Tiffany said she loved him and she thought he loved her. I was very pissed off that he wouldn't take the test. And the whole spiel he gave me, you know, the mind tricks, the try to pull on me. I remember he was on tour with Tony Braxton. I'm on the phone with him and I can hear the crowd waiting for him. The crowd is roaring and roaring. And I asked him to take the test. And he's like, no. He goes to me, you and me better both know that is not my baby. He said he didn't want to hear anything else about it. Then he said, now tell me you love me. Tiffany told me about this 7.5-hour deposition she gave to his attorneys and about the horrible, invasive, and insulting questions they asked her about supposed lying, sleeping around, trying to shake down their client, and spreading venereal diseases. She also told me about the things she said. He used to call me Madam and the cable girl because I used to hook him up, bring him girls, bring my friends, and you know what? That's exactly what I was at the time. I'm not even going to lie to you. It was like I wanted to be around and I knew what I had to do in order to stay around. And I didn't want to do it, but there were girls who didn't mind doing it. So it was kind of like, okay, cool. All right, let's go. Tiffany said she brought 6 underage girls into his circle of intimates. She'd actually been the last of the 7 teens to have sexual contact with him. It got progressively worse. The more money and power he got, the worse he got. But I loved him. I wanted to be around him. I looked at him in awe. We would be in the studio and he'd be writing something and singing, and I would just be like, this man, I get to be around this genius. He asked her to cut off all her hair. He asked her to do a lot of things, and I'm not going to report another goddamn one of them. If the case has not been made to you by now, it never will be. I want you to meet Tiffany like I did. On a sunny Sunday morning when even the endless Chicago winter didn't even quite so daunting. After she split from him, Tiffany tried to kill herself, taking a handful of pills. I was at home and my mother was there. She wound up taking me to the hospital and I had to have my stomach pumped. And that was really hard, it was hard. I asked if she'd been disappointed that the state's attorney declined to pursue criminal charges. I don't think it was disappointment, more like what I expected. I was a young Black girl. Who cared? She said, quickly squandered the money she got from the settlement. She cashed her check for 2/3 of $250,000 minus costs and immediately went shopping at the mall. The money, I wish I had done better with it. However, I still have people to this day that believe the story about how he's the reason I live in a decent home, drive nice cars, and am able to travel frequently. Not. I just made the decision not to let my past define my future. I made my life what it is now because I wasn't going to let anyone else do that for me. With her own money, not his. Tiffany went to college downstate with the baby with me, and then to a Big Ten university where she earned a degree in radiologic science. Then she got an online master's degree in management. She runs a hospital's ultrasound department now. Understandably, she doesn't want to say where, and she has a different surname these days. She's been happily married for going on 6 years, and she has 2 children. My son is grown and gone, and I have a daughter who is awesome. Her daughter is almost as old as she was then. For a long time, no matter what I was doing, if I heard Robert's music or saw him on TV, my stomach would drop. It would be like, I don't know, reliving a nightmare. It was something for a long time that I couldn't get past because his music was everywhere. And every time I had to hear it for a long time, I could not get away from him. 100 million albums sold, his own and those he crafted for so many other artists, billions of dollars generated, the voice of a generation, ubiquitous, untouchable. But she finally slowly began to tune it all out, to mute it. Tiffany not only survived, but eventually thrived. I think maybe, I don't know, I'm stronger than most. Tiffany gave me another big hug when we got ready to leave. I cried, she's cried, her attorney had cried, and we'd all laughed a few times. Too, because hell, sometimes you just have to. She'd already told me she doesn't sing anymore. I tried later on, several years after that, but the passion just wasn't there. I thought of the more question. I thought of one more question as we were trading email addresses and phone numbers and taking iPhone pics. This one didn't come from the journalist, critic, professor, father, or husband. It came from the inner 13-year-old who fell in love with the Velvet song about a life saved by rock and roll, who later did a fanized call Reasons for Living, and who still lives to listen. After all, the evidence I've compiled of damage done and young lives robbed of all the painful and horrible things I've heard and seen, Tiffany's answer to that question breaks my fucking heart. Every single time I think about it, I know you can't listen to him. I said, but can you find joy in any music now? No, she said. Not really. Not very much, no. All right, you guys, that is it. I am not gonna read these acknowledgments. I'm not even gonna lie to you. You guys can slow this down and read it yourself. But that concludes Soulless, the case against R. Kelly. Tell me what you guys think about this book, and tell me what book you guys will be interested in hearing next. If you guys have any ideas, let me know. We can actually get into the read of Portia's book if you guys would like to. If you guys want to hear the full chapter where R. Kelly is in it, we can do that as well. But you guys let me know in the description box down below, okay? While you guys are there, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. But this concludes Soulless, the case against R. Kelly. Read out loud with Whitney D. Love you guys. Bye.
Butterfly in the sky. I can go twice as high.
Nope. This ain't it. You are tuned into a realistic, unprofessional perspective reading of this book. So that means stumbles, fumbles, and sometimes an occasional mispronunciation of words. So if you are looking for the audible of this book, go buy it yourself. Or feel free to mute me and read on your own. Otherwise, sit back and be grateful. You are tuned into a live reading with Whitney G.
I'm Whitney. Keep it cute, but get the boot.